I would like to welcome Natalie Muric, who is going to tell us about how to use the eProcurement ontology. Natalie, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me and
Absolutely,
see my
loud and clear.
Okay, so I will get started. So I'm Natalie Muric. I'm from the Publications Office and I'm the project manager for the eProcurement ontology. So I'm going to explain how to use the eProcurement ontology. But maybe just to get started, I should explain what is the ontology. So the eProcurement ontology is a model of the information that is contained within the procurement domain. What is important to understand is that the procurement domain is very large. It goes from e-notification through to e-payment. So there's different parts of this domain broken down to different parts of the life cycle. So you have like e-notification, e-access, e-submission, e-evaluation, and then you have e-awarding, e-contract, and then e-ordering, e-fulfillment, and such like. And there has been a lot of standardization in public procurement, but it's generally stayed in the silos. So e-notification has been standardization in e-notification, for example, and there's been standardization of the semantics also in e-ordering, but the semantics used in e-notification were not necessarily the same used in e-ordering. So, data couldn't be completely reused without transferring through one thing or another. So the idea between of the ontology is to enable a common understanding of all the concepts in e-procurement, whether it comes from e-ordering, from e-notification or e-payment, that we use the same concepts. We do not have two concepts meaning the same thing, okay? So as it is such a large domain, we didn't take the normal approach to creating the procurement ontology. We didn't start with competency questions. In fact, we started with e-notification because that is like the backbone. It's a summary of all the other different domains. So not domains, parts of the life cycle, if you like. And we started talking to business people to have them explain to us what concepts were used in public procurement and how they were related to each other. Okay, so we needed to have a model that business people could understand. They cannot necessarily understand the technical OWL files and such like. So we started working with UML. So we have here, this is just a snapshot, but we have the glasses so the business people can understand, and also the technical people when they want to transfer it to technical information. So we have the classes, for example, buyer, procurement service provider, and procedure. I should probably be doing this on this screen. I'm on the other screen. And then you have the attributes in green and the predicates in mauve. Now, for all of these different concepts, we do have definitions. So, for example, the buyer in the UML, you will see it's a role of an agent that awards a contract and or purchases items, okay? Within the buyer has a buyer profile, so there's a definition of this. So if a buyer, when providing the data of a given buyer, has a buyer profile, you would provide the URI. And then there's the predicates is responsibility of buyer. The buyer is in charge of the procedure. So all this information is contained within the UML. Now, we have this human readable format in UML. From this, we create a glossary where you can see all the classes and their definitions. It also goes down to the attributes and the predicates, okay? And then all of this is transformed into machine readable format. So how is this done? So the human, as I said, the human readable UML is transformed automatically to the machine-readable owl and shekel shapes. But unfortunately, UML is very open to interpretation. It's very ambiguous for certain things. So what we've done to avoid any ambiguity, we have created a UML convention specification, which is also available for the business people so they can understand the diagrams better. And it allows our machine that automatically transforms the UML to owl and shekel shapes to follow these conventions. And before transforming anything, we also do a conformity check. So there's another script running on somewhere else. Okay, so now we have the ontology. We have it in owl and shekel shapes. So now all that needs to be done is to produce data that is conformant with the ontology so that queries can be applied. So I've given an example here. We have a data set of notices. So the query was retrieve all lots that foresee funding by the European Union funds. So this query was done on this data set, and then all the lots come out, and then you could see which notice it was, which procedure it was, depending on what other information you added to your query. Now, where is the EPO used at the moment? Well, it was used in creating the public procurement e-forms, the new e-forms. It is being mapped to the current standard forms that will stop being used in October. This will allow querying on this data. And it is also being used by CENTIC 440, which is the European Standardization Committee, their technical group on public procurement. So there they had many working groups. They had working groups like on e-ordering, e-fulfillment, as I said at the beginning. And they had different terminology depending on the working group. So a big effort has been done for them to use our vocabulary so that they ensure that each of their working groups use a language which is conformant and non-ambiguous. Now, it will also be used in the public procurement data space. So it will be the base format for the data that will be queryable both from national platforms and from TED. So this is where the TED RDF mappings come in. So the TED data will be transformed via the TED RDF mappings and made available in the seller for use in the public procurement data space. If you're interested in the public procurement data space, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to mention this, but in track 1 of Indoors at 425, there is a discussion on common European data spaces, and one of the examples that will be there is the public procurement data space. So I'm ready for any questions. I've put here links to the 3 GitHubs we have. So we have the public procurement ontology, which is the first one. So this is where you can get the shekel shapes, the owl, and diagrams of the UML diagrams. Then the second one is model to owl. So this is the transformation of the UML to owl and shekel shapes, which could be reused in other projects, but would have to be probably adapted slightly. And also the TED mapping, so the mapping from XML to RDF for use in the public procurement data space.
Thank you very much, Natalie, and thank you for sharing that information. Indeed, one of the questions we had received was about where you could find the eProcurement ontology. So thanks a lot for sharing the link. That one's already answered. But I have another question. Can you make searches in a much wider set of data and parameters than before? And are users offered standard Sparkle queries that they can use for search?
Okay, so the ontology is made available at the moment. So this is just the ontology. There is no data there for the time being. It's to be queried. The TED-RDF mapping will be made available later this year. Well, not the mapping, the RDF files. So yes, you will be able to query much more in depth the notices, and it is hoped that in the future, in the public procurement data space, for example, you will be able to query across different things, not just notices, but maybe related to contracts or orders or invoices or whatever. Maybe not everything, because not all data is open. There's data protection, but that is the theory.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being with us this afternoon and for being so clear and focused on your answers. Thanks a lot, Natalie, and bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye.